Everyone, before calling this public meeting of Council to order for April 7th, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and it is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Calling this meeting to order, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in relation to the items on this public meeting agenda? Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a conflict of interest in regards to 268 Isabella Street. Jason Turcott, he's my nephew.
Any other disclosed pecuniary interests? Seeing none. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda. I have moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Jackin. All those in favor? That is carried. That brings us to new business. First up is regarding Z3 2026. So, this meeting has been called to consider the application under the City of Pembroke zoning bylaw 2020-05 to rezone the property to be municipally known as 365 Matheson Drive from a residential type 4 R4 zone to a residential type 350 R350 zone. Madam Clerk, would you please provide a report on how notice was given?
Notice was given by regular mail to all owners of property within a 120-meter radius of the subject land, by email to all applicable agencies, and was posted on site on March 5th, 2026.
Thank you. I'd ask for a planning report from Ms. Sorio regarding this particular application.
Thank you. Good evening. So the applicant is Allison Clark on behalf of the owner Norlock. They have submitted a site plan proposing a row dwelling of 4 primary units and 2 accessory dwelling units for a total of 6 units at 365 Matheson Drive, which is presently a vacant piece of land at the end of Matheson. The zoning bylaw currently zones this property as R4, which permits apartment dwellings, but it doesn't permit any uses of lower density, such as the row dwelling houses that are being proposed. So hence the requirement to rezone to an R3-50 zone. All zone provisions like lot area, setbacks, lot frontage, building height, landscaping requirements are all met and or exceeded for the proposed development. The R3-50 zoning is compatible within the neighborhood of 365 Matheson. It's made up of a mixture, that area is made up of a mixture of semi-detached row dwellings and apartment buildings. So the addition of another medium density row dwelling development would fit in perfectly with the existing street and the neighborhood. Regarding parking, 2 parking spaces are required for the primary dwelling units and a single parking space for the secondary units. Therefore, 10 parking spaces are required and are shown in a total of 4 driveways. However, site-specific relief is required to allow 2 of these driveways to have a maximum width of 22 feet, as well as the driveways to have a minimum separation distance of 20 feet instead of the required 25 feet. These 2 site-specific reliefs from parking provisions can be viewed as being relatively minor in nature, and this would allow for all required parking to be accommodated on the lot, and the intent of the zoning bylaws parking provisions could be met. This property is subject to 2 easements, one being in favor of the Ottawa River Power Corporation and the second easement being in favor of the city for sanitary sewer infrastructure. The easements are located on either end of the property, with the row house dwelling being situated in between the 2 easements. So neither the row dwelling nor its parking areas are shown as impeding either easement. It's designated as residential in the official plan, and the official plan encourages all forms of residential intensification that create a potential supply of new housing. Residential intensification will be encouraged in built-up areas where there is sufficient existing or planned infrastructure to accommodate such development, which there is. The proposed development is also located within 1 kilometer of Fellows High School, Champlain Discovery, and Our Lady of Lourdes Elementary School. It's also located within 1 kilometer of highway commercial businesses on Pembroke Street East, including those in the Pembroke Mall. So this meets the intent of the official plan. The roads in the neighborhood of 365 meet the standards set in the official plan, and their sidewalks are available on one or both sides of the roads, making for easy pedestrian access to the highway commercial strip of Pembroke Street East and the Pembroke Mall, as well as the schools. The official plan also states all residential development shall be adequately serviced with municipal water and sanitary sewers, waste disposal, and utilities. Full servicing is available on Matheson Drive, and the requirement of a building permit for the proposed row dwelling will trigger the approval of the operations department to ensure adequate servicing is met. This application is consistent with the provincial planning statement 2024. Therefore, the planning department recommends the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment for 365 Matheson from R4 to an R3-50 zone, as it is in keeping with the zoning bylaw, the official plan, and the provincial planning statement.
Ms. Soria, was anyone in opposition of the application?
The city received only one informational inquiry regarding this particular application.
Okay, and anyone in support of the application?
The applicant, Jason Turcott, Miss Clark is not here this evening. She was supposed to Zoom in, but there is someone in the audience. No, there is no one. Sorry, your next one. There is no one in the audience that's against the application.
Okay, fair enough. At this time, I'd entertain a report from the Chair of Planning Development Committee of Council regarding the Advisory and Adjustment Committee's comments regarding the application.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council and staff. Alison Clark attended remotely. Any questions that were required were posed to her through Council. There didn't seem to be any real issues. It follows the requirements of the Provincial Planning Act as such. And our community, which is sort of landlocked, we're trying to fill every vacant lot we have and every piece of property that we have to encourage new growth within our area as far as, we can go. Some of the houses that have been built in that particular area, Your Worship, members of Council, if you've not seen the ones just off on the hill on Matheson Drive, I think you should take a look. They're just beautiful. They're well constructed, architecturally pleasing. And it shows, what kind of a community we're living in. We're not building box cookie cutter structures. These are homes that anyone would love to live in. The advisory committee didn't have any issues, and we moved forward to bring it to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giacono. Is there any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none. If anyone wishes to be notified of council's decision, please contact Mr. Hutton or Ms. Sorio at City Hall. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this particular public meeting and move on to the next one. So moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor of adjourning this public meeting? That's passed. Thank you. The next one for this evening and the last one for this evening in this public meeting is regarding Z4-2026 regarding 268 Isabella Street, Jason Turcott. And if the minutes would reflect that Councillor Purcell has left the table. This meeting has been called to consider the application under City of Pembroke zoning bylaw 2020-05 to rezone the property municipally known as 268 Isabella Street from local commercial 2 C1/2 zone from a local commercial 3 C1/3 zone. Madam Clerk, would you please provide a report on how notice was given?
Through you, Chair. Notice was given by regular mail to all owners of property within a 120-meter radius of the subject land, by email to all applicable agencies, and was posted on site on March 4th, 2026.
Thank you. And I'd ask for a report from Ms. Sorio as the City Director of Planning regarding this application.
Thank you. So the applicant, Jason Turcott, is proposing the conversion of the ground floor commercial unit of the existing mixed-use building at 268 Isabella Street to a residential dwelling unit. This mixed-use building currently consists of a single ground floor commercial unit and 5 apartment dwellings on the above stories. So 268 Isabella is currently zone C1-2, which permits a variety or limited commercial uses, and as the current site-specific zoning explicitly only permits residential dwelling units above the ground floor, non-residential units are permitted on the ground floor. So this proposed zoning bylaw amendment would look at having a commercial use on the main floor as well, or an apartment dwelling unit. So there would be flexibility in this particular zoning to either allow a commercial unit on the main floor or an apartment dwelling on the main floor. There's been issues with trying to rent it as a commercial use, so the applicant has asked for a residential use to be on the main floor. So this proposed zoning would be compatible with the existing neighborhood. It's largely surrounded by residential zonings with the odd commercial zoning mixed into the neighborhood. All lot area, lot frontage, and setbacks are met. There is existing site-specific relief in the C1-2 zone for a minimum interior side yard setback where an interior side yard abuts a residential zone. So this would be carried over, this relief, to the proposed C1-3 zoning. Regarding parking, the ground floor unit, residential unit would require 2 parking spaces, and the five above existing residential dwelling units would require 1 parking space per unit for a total of 5. So there would be a requirement of 7 parking spaces for the proposal, but 10 parking spaces are provided on site. 268 Isabella is currently designated residential in the official plan. The OP states that certain compatible uses may be permitted in a separate zoning category without amendment to this plan, provided that adequate measures are taken to ensure that the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood is not adversely impacted. So the existing building and zoning for local commercial uses has been long-standing for this particular property, and the city is not aware of any issues relating to its proximity to residential properties. The addition of the proposed residential use can be viewed as being a relatively minor change from the existing permitted uses that will be even more compatible with the surrounding uses. There will be no obtrusive lighting or signage proposed. Traffic flows are expected to be relatively low, and the use will not be detrimental to the residential character of the neighborhood. No addition to the existing building or expansion of the existing building footprint is proposed. This application meets the intent of the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, so the Planning Department recommends the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment for 268 Isabella Street from a C1-2 zone to a C1-3 zone, as the application is in keeping with the intents of the zoning bylaw, official plan, and provincial planning statements.
Thank you. And Ms. Sawyer, was there anyone in opposition of the application?
There was no one at the Planning Advisory Committee, and we received no calls or letters in regards to opposition to this particular application.
Thank you. And then in support of the application?
The applicant, Jason Turcott, is not available to be here tonight, but there is a lady in the audience who would like to come forward.
Certainly. And I know from the minutes that Mr. Turcott was present at your planning advisory, yes. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Hines. I live on Isabella Street as well, and I walk past there every day walking my dogs. And from what I can tell, it just looked like a good opportunity to get full use out of the building, and I couldn't see any issues with parking or expansion or anything. Just it's empty a lot, so it just seemed like a way to improve housing and get more use out of that space. So I was for it.
Thank you. Well said. Councillor Giacono, did you want to bring forward a report at this time from the Planning Development Committee of Council?
I do, Your Worship. First of all, I'd just like to say that it's wonderful to see somebody from the public coming to support something that we support and to show that we're on the right track. I mean, we try and make the right decisions as much as we can. Perhaps we're not always right. Sometimes we tweak things, but it's for the benefit of the community at large. 268 Isabella, again, is a reflection of much-needed growth within our area. I know that Algonquin College continues to bring focus to our community. I know many programs have been cut across the board, but it is my perspective that in the long term, the college will continue to grow. These apartments and new renovations that Mr. Turcott, is putting forward allows, students to rent a building that's fairly close to the downtown. They can shop, they can walk, they can go to school. They can attend, they can have a cold beverage if they want one of the establishments, which most students like to do on occasion, I'm sure. So again, it continues, we continue to see our growth within the area. And Mr. Turcotte, of course, one of the many developers in our area, continues to construct decent buildings and renovations. And we're happy that we have such a hard-working team of people living within our community and interested in seeing it grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of council? Councillor Keel.
Just one comment that was brought up at the planning meeting, which obviously we're generally speaking with the downtown commercial or whatnot, we don't usually allow residential dwellings on the ground floor. It was expressed, I believe, by a number of us at the committee level that this truly is an exception. It's not on the main drag. It's not in the heart of the core. So we know, I don't think this council has dealt with it, but I think your worship, past councils have dealt with that question. And I just wanted to be clear that I believe the view of the committee was this is a one-off. It's not in the downtown core. And that's why in this particular case, we were favorable for that permission.
Thank you for that clarification, because yes, it's certainly come up before. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, if anyone wishes to be notified of council's decision, please contact either Mr. Hutton or Ms. Sorio at City Hall. And I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the public meeting of council, moved by Councillor Keel, second by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning and Development Committee of Council of Tuesday, April 7, 2026. I'll call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof? Seeing none, the approval of the agenda, meeting agenda, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. The approval of the minutes of the Planning and Development Committee of March the 3rd, 2026. We need a mover. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Any comments, errors, or omissions? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Those in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Under presentations and delegations this evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, there's a Joint Municipal Service Corporation Water and Wastewater Service Feasibility Study, and our presenter this evening will be Mr. Jim Pine, the project manager. Now, I got to tell you, I went to see Mr. Pine earlier to welcome him and say hello, because I kept looking at him, and he looks like many people that live in the valley. There's a gentleman that works for the Board of Education. I know there's a teacher at Algonquin College. So you must have been cloned, or you have some connection to the Ottawa Valley. So Jim, welcome to our committee. I know you've been here in the past. And perhaps you may want to let council know what you're doing now, or a little bit of your background, because I know you were involved. Welcome.
Well, thanks very much. You probably know then that my sister does live in the town of Renfrew, just down the road a little bit. So And I'm not sure what my parents were doing over the years, so maybe I do have some connections to the valley. But I have been here many, many times, and I always enjoy coming back, particularly to Pembroke. I love to go to the Nook when I can, and I'll be doing that a little bit later, I hope, after the presentation. I am doing this project management job for LAS, Amos Business Services Corporation, but as you know, for 33 years or thereabouts, I was the municipal CAO, last 21 years as the CAO for Hastings County. So I was up here a lot, working with county folks and with the city folks as well. And here, of course, many times for EORN, for the East Ontario Regional Network, when we were building out both the broadband and the cellular projects. So it feels like home, and I really do enjoy coming. So thank you for welcoming me. I'm really here tonight just to give you an update on the work of the study. And right off the top, I just want to say a special thank you to the committee and to council, and particularly to your CAO, to David, for participating in the work that I'm going to talk about in the next little while. David has been really key, and I'm not just feathering his bed here. He has been really key in the work that we're doing on this feasibility study. So I just wanted to say thank you for letting him participate. So we can move along. As I say, this is an update, and I'm looking for any comments or feedback that you have, so please feel free. The LAS Board of Directors did two things. About 2 years ago, they commissioned an expert panel to look at water and wastewater services in the province. And out of that work, the work of the expert panel, there was a recommendation that LAS look at whether or not there was a business case for LAS to set up a municipal services corporation to deliver water and wastewater services. And that's what we're doing. We're looking at a really detailed assessment of whether it makes sense for LAS, but in the work that we're doing, we're developing great information, thanks to the work of the 8 municipalities who are participating, that will help councils decide whether this is an opportunity to look at in terms of the way water and wastewater is delivered. The study itself is really based on the two things, a strong financial analysis and lots of modeling around rates, and you can imagine the other aspects of finance, and governance and structures. So we're going to deliver on that, but the other thing, as I mentioned before, is what we're also going to provide is a deliverable around a sort of a template for a shareholders agreement, which you'll hear about in a moment, which is really fundamental to the establishment of a municipal services corporation. You have to get this right. So there are 8 participants from the municipal group that are joined us in the study. And of course, Pembroke is one of the leads, if I can put it that way. You're one of the biggest in terms of size and customer base in terms of the study, which is really important. And I gave David some credit before, but he really does need a bit more, because what David and his staff have done throughout the course of the study is provide and raise a lot of really fundamental questions that need to get answered as we think about what it would take to establish a municipal services corporation. And those really on-the-ground operational questions that David and his staff have asked have really helped us inform the work that we're doing. So again, a thank you to Dave for your work on that. In terms of timelines, the study really got going in about September of last year. There was some preliminary stuff to get it set up, but we started meeting as a group of the 8 municipalities and the consultants group that I'll talk about in just a minute. And our end date is the end of May. We have to deliver the full study and results to the LAS Board of Directors. And I should say that David is a member of that LAS Board of Directors as well, as you probably, I know you know. So we're on time. We've got a lot of work to do still before we get there, but the way we've done the study itself, LAS set up 2 particular committees to do the work. A consultants committee, of which I project manage, generally speaking, that's made up of some legal expertise around MSC, the legal side of MSC corporations, a economic and financial modeling consultant group called London Economics to help us look at the finances around establishing a corporation, what it would take, and to think about how you might deal with issues around how do you set rates, what are the rate setting policies that an MSC should consider. And then we have what we call the Municipal Partners Committee, which David is a member. These are CAOs and senior staff from the 8 participating municipalities, where we bring ideas to that group and try to test run them to see if it makes sense, and they provide feedback for us as well. So it's been a really collaborative approach, and it's been working, I think, really well. And I think David would back me on that. Just in general, when we talk about a municipal services corporation for water and wastewater services, we think there are some basic benefits around it. You can talk about economies of scale. One of the things that has struck me as being really important is AMO recently announced or advised that over the next 10 years, they estimate that about $300 billion worth of spending needs to happen in Ontario's water and wastewater services. About $200 billion of that is just to maintain our existing services, and about $100 billion is related to growth or to provide for growth. So there's a really big spend that's going to come in our lifetimes, at least I hope in mine anyway. And we need to think about how best to do that. And an MSC is one of those potential ways to organize water and wastewater services. So you're going to need scale, which is really important as we think about all of these different expenditures. We want to look at ways to lower the cost of financing, because long-term financing is really critical to water and wastewater services. When you have assets that can, have a useful age of 80 to 100 years, you need to finance those appropriately so that you don't have intergenerational difficulties. You need to think about the future and how services, where they need to go. So the coordination, the planning, all of those things are critically important. And another thing, you get a little bit bigger, you can manage risk a little bit better as well, from what we're understanding. So as you get some scale, a little bit more scale, managing some of the challenges that out there is often seen as a benefit to getting a little bit bigger. Ultimately, at the end of this study, it'll be up to municipal councils at the right time to decide whether or not an MSC is the right approach, and a joint MSC being with multiple municipalities. I would note that I saw in the budget papers that the province issued just last week a particular commentary from the ministry around MSCs. As you know, they're establishing a Municipal Services Corporation for the region of Peel. And if you read the documents, they think that there is some really good learnings that they're going to get from that. And I think will be good learnings from the work that we're doing around MSCs. And I think the province sees the potential for a Municipal Services Corporation or joint Municipal Services Corporations. So our timing is good, I think, in terms of the work that we're doing. But what do we mean when we talk about an MSC? I put this slide in just to give you an idea. Really what we're talking about is a corporation that would be responsible for everything, if I can put it that way, in terms of water and wastewater, the operations, the maintenance, all of the contributed assets that would come to a corporation, capital investments, and you can go through the slide, new assets, billing, collection, planning, regulatory compliance, financing, and strategy. So it would have the full scope of responsibility for water and wastewater services. And if you think about a joint MSC, it would be across multiple jurisdictions, multiple municipalities. As we think about a corporation, there are some really fundamental things that we need to consider, and municipal councils need to consider. And we looked at them through this study, and we came to some consensus around it, and I'll talk about that consensus and hopefully get your feedback on it. But board size is important. You need to get a board that is just the right size, that can function, but is large enough to manage the interests of the participating municipalities. You need to think about who should be on that board? What kind of skills does a board member need to bring to a corporation? You need to figure out how to manage the change on a board. Board compensation, I raise it now because it's important. You need to think about how you might compensate directors who are on a MSC board. And we propose looking at using the Ontario Business Corporations Act as the corporate vehicle for this. It really runs in a business-like way when you can use the OSBC. We landed in terms of a board size, generally speaking, on a 7 to 13 number, just as one that we think is manageable. Maybe you have 20 municipalities involved or 10. You've got to find the right size. It's got to be functional. It's just like a council needs to be the right size in order to function properly. There's no magic to it, but the group felt that somewhere in between 7 and 13 would be a good number. This is really important, though, board composition. It is really important, and I think if you read the provincial paper as well, the minister speaks about skills-based boards. These are having members of the board who bring different skills to a board. Could be legal, could be financial, could be risk management, those kinds of skills to help boards make good decisions. And I'm involved in some other work for the province that is looking at skills-based boards as well in the public health sector. So there's a general, I think, trend towards looking at putting members who bring certain skills to a board in order that they can make these well-informed decisions. We came to the conclusion that outside members, beyond the council table, if I can put it that way, should be on an MSC board. And I didn't coin this phrase, but others had. It really is, and I don't mean this to be derogatory at all, but taking the politics out of the pipes is the way people characterize it. So these really become business decisions with strong input from the municipalities, and I'll show you how they propose to do that. But these are members from beyond the board, the council table, if I can put it that way. And it's important to ensure there's a separation between the board and the shareholders, and that's why a shareholders agreement is really critical to this as well. So fundamentally, we're talking about a skills-based board and members who come from outside of a council table. I'd be interested to hear if you've got any comments on that. In terms of establishing the board, obviously the municipalities involved will need to decide on the size. We've suggested 7 to 13 in that neighborhood. And a critical step is to establish this skills matrix. As I said, I've been doing some work with the province around skills matrix for Board of Health, and it is a really good exercise to go through. Because what it does, it really breaks out what do you need in a board and the individuals in order to make good public health decisions, but it would be to make good decisions around municipal water and wastewater services as well. So developing a skills matrix, you might want to have legal, you might want to have accounting, those kinds of public policy skills. So developing a skills matrix would be something that the shareholders would need to do. You'd strike a committee, you'd call for candidates, do some interviews, and eventually establish that first board. All of this will take time and agreement to make it happen, but there needs to be a process in order to get to the board. Once you have a board, people change. They will either stay for a certain period of time. Perhaps you'll have staggered terms. There should be some term limits. People come and go, and there needs to be mechanisms in order to fill vacancies. And that's what we've been working on in the shareholders agreement. So we try to put some rules around this and be helpful, I think, at a time when there is a board in place. We raise the issue of compensation because it is important when you're talking about running a service that cannot fail, water and wastewater. Everybody would agree that failure is not an option in the provision of these services. And so you want to attract as highly skilled a member as you can to serve on that board, and typically they are compensated for their time and their efforts and we'll need to do work around what does that look like. And, you know, I don't have a number for you. I don't know what that would be, but we raise it as so that eyes wide open that if we're going to go along this route, we should be thinking about the compensation and, of course, making sure there's directors' insurance and those sorts of things that have to happen. I mentioned operating under the Business Corporations Act. In short, it's a proven way to run a board like this. It allows the board itself and the corporation to determine its governance processes, its meetings, and all of those things. The group felt that the operating under the Ontario Business Corporations Act would be the most effective way for an MSC to do its job. In terms of shareholders, well, the shareholders are the participating municipalities. If you can imagine a corporation that has multiple municipalities participating, if Pembroke was partnering with Whitewater or your neighbors, and perhaps neighbors who aren't necessarily side by side to you, maybe geographically different, those municipalities would be the shareholders, the participating municipalities. And there are, in order to make this work, the shareholders are separate from the board, but they relate to the board through the shareholders agreement. And we've spent, David, a lot of time talking about the shareholders agreement. It's a very detailed legal document that would need to be put in place. Doesn't matter, even if you're doing an MSC within one municipality only, you're still going to need to do a lot of work around the shareholders agreement. It has two main components, that is setting out the rights and responsibilities of the shareholders, and then providing direction to the board through the shareholders' direction. There's two parts to it. And then there's discussion around what are the distribution of shares. You can imagine a situation if Pembroke is the largest municipality with the largest set of assets going in, and there's some smaller municipalities, you've got to figure out what's a fair distribution of assets or of shares, and what are the voting rights with those shares. So those things can be complicated, but necessary to figure out, and that's what we're working on. So that's sort of some of the governance things that an MSC needs to consider, and we're considering as part of our work. The other piece is around rate setting and rates, because obviously that's pretty critical. The fundamental principle that we've been operating under, and I think we have concurrence or consensus on this, is that operating municipal water and wastewater services through an MSC, it needs to be financially sustainable, and at the end of the day, has to fully recover the costs of operating and capital. And that, it sounds simple, but it is really fundamental to the whole project. But we recognize it takes time to get there. You can't overnight raise rates to cover all of your costs. It may take time. We think that there may still be a period of time that provincial or federal support will be required to support an MSC getting to full cost recovery. This isn't going to happen overnight. There'd be a rate shock probably, because your rates would have to go up a bit unless you're already there. But nonetheless, the principle is this notion of full cost recovery. And the rates at the end of the day would be set by the MSC board. So again, thinking about it, you're setting the rates becomes a responsibility of the MSC board, not council. It becomes that. But what happens is there are directions around classes and of users and those sorts of things that the MSC board would have to take into consideration, and that would come through shareholder direction documents, generally speaking. We've still got work to do before the end of May to finalize. We're working on what would be recommendations around guide to setting rates, these rate setting policies, the design of rates themselves, and we're finishing up this shareholders agreement, this template, I think, that will be useful for others if you decide at some point that an MSC could work for Pembroke or for any other municipality. It's good to, I think through the complex details that are involved in an MSC corporation now before just launching into it. You need, right there, I think David would agree that there's a lot of work that needs to happen or thought that needs to go into something. But I think the work that we're doing on this study is going to be helpful to some of those discussions that one might have. So really the question for me tonight is to take back to the group, are we on the right track? Are some of the things that I've spoken about tonight, do they ring true? Do they have concerns for you? I think we hope at the end of the day, knowing what's in front of us as a sector across the province, it's a good thing to be thinking about how to tackle the future and to do it now. And so hopefully the work that we do will provide some guidance and some support for those kinds of decision makings going forward. So happy to try and answer any questions. I appreciate the time. And over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jim. Members of council, questions? Councilor Purcell?
First of all, thank you very much for your presentation. As a municipal service corp, how does it work? I can see how it works with bordering municipalities, but municipalities that aren't bordering, especially when you're looking at financing larger projects where there's maybe more in common in terms of delivery of the services to a particular area, is it just more the financing piece in terms of sharing some of those service supports for acquiring financial funds to perform that work activity? That's only one question. And the other one is, so I can see how it works with like our partnering, our bordering municipalities. You said about the health unit, and it kind of puts me in terms of the amalgamation of health units and those kinds of things. Amalgamation, it's talking about, regional transitions in your presentation as well. And I know that the provincial government is keen on that in terms of looking at opportunities for, combining various different resources and service providers to maximize efficiencies. Not always true, such as the health components in terms of the health units. I sit on the Renfrew County District Health Unit as one that you mentioned in regards to, opportunities. We've been capped at 1%. I see this kind of going in the same direction. Then all of a sudden, if you're not going to create this MSC, is there going to be some sort of, is it going to be participating municipalities? Is it based on the municipalities to say that they want in? Or will this be, if it's not acceptable, will this be kind of like rammed down our throats and more or less? Because there are advantages and there are disadvantages in terms of municipal service corps, right? And what happens to our existing employees in those settings and all these different things. What happened to unionized employees? We can see that they be responsible for hiring and firing and running it as a private corporation.
Those are really, really good questions. It's more than financing, obviously. It's also about, I was talking to David about this, capacity building too. Human resources, all of those things have to be part of the consideration, whether it's the right thing for Pembroke to do, for instance. You need to think those things through. But yeah, it would, in a situation where you do establish an MSC, those labor contracts would go to the corporation, and you'd manage them accordingly. I don't see anything about being forced into something. This is a decision that you're going to have to make, at least in the current context that I understand it, is you'll make on your own if you so choose to decide on this. But it really is, I think, about capacity building and being able to manage what's coming down the road and in the future in terms of whether you've got growth coming or whether you're just trying to manage your existing systems. It is an interesting concept where you might have participating municipalities who are not adjoined to each other. There might be geographically different, and we do have that in this study, and that's one of the things we're looking at. Can we make an MSC work that members are not physically attached to each other, your neighbors, and so that's just part of the analysis that we're doing. We think it's possible. The corporation has to run its services whether it's in a municipality that's 25 miles away or 100 miles away, in the same fashion that it needs to run it to where their members are adjoined. They have to do it according to all of the laws and the principles of things. So we think that's certainly possible, but it is, we purposely looked at, can we do this in a broader geographic way? So I guess the proof will be in the pudding by the time we get to the end of the study on that. But it really is about, can we create an organization that has the capacity to take care of our systems now and in the future? Can we find better ways and cheaper ways to finance the costs? Can we, municipalities are interested in debt load, in debt capacity. And as we understand it, in order to qualify, you have to be a government business enterprise. It's an accounting thing, but it's important. And typically, existing debt would stay with the member municipalities. New debt would be debt taken on by the corporation, but the corporation could also enter into an agreement, we've been talking about this, to provide financial support to help paying that existing debt that stayed in the municipality. So there are different ways to try and tackle it. It's just worthy, I think, of looking at in detail and trying to figure out whether it's the right thing for you to do. But one of the things that I've gotten involved in is I've spent a career in municipal government, and water and wastewater has always been one of the most complex services. And I said before, it's one of those services where failure is not an option. We just have to do the right thing to make sure that people can get safe drinking water, and the wastewater system works as well. So that's always going to be the driving principle, I think, for any organization or any body that's looking at providing water and wastewater services, whether it stays within the realm of the municipal corporation or whether it's done differently through an MSC or some other vehicle. It'll always have to be done right. And that's partly why we've been thinking about skills-based boards as being a good thing as you look to the future. Will they be able to make good decisions? They should be able to make good decisions if we set them up right. It's a long-winded answer for saying all of those things will be taken into consideration.
I guess my only concern is in regards to, combining services, and I'll use the health unit as an example. It's a perfect example. Those that combine get proper funding. Those that don't have the opportunity, or because we're such a large organization, we get tapped to 1% increase every year. So I see this kind of going down the same lines, and this is just a step towards amalgamation. If we want to talk amalgamation, that's a different thing. But what's different between wastewater and water than all the other municipal services that we provide?
Well,
25 fire departments in Renfrew. We have, duplication of services in all the different municipalities from Petawawa, Pembroke, Laurentian Valley, the county. And I think there needs to be some bigger discussion by this council in regards to, our direction, our future, because we can't do it alone. I recognize that, but I think it's come to the time right now where we need to kind of say, hey, maybe it's time that we start looking at a shared services, and if we're sharing the services, then why not just amalgamate? Period.
Good point, Councillor Purcell, and something for further deliberation, I would say,
Yeah, I'll stay away from that one.
Thank you.
I knew you would. Are you done, Councillor Purcell? I am done. Thank you for your comments. Your Worship, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as Councillor Purcell said, thank you for your presentation. Councillor Purcell's comments are most astute, though. When the province, we're a creature of the province, and when the province wants something to happen, you're either voluntarily doing it and you're ahead of the curve, or you're going to be forced to do something that you may or may not necessarily want. I think we, as a city of Pembroke, are blessed, at least up until this point, in terms of the qualified individuals, starting with the CAO, going to the director, and going through the whole water and wastewater distribution. We have individuals like the grant application that was made. The province saw fit to give us $28.7 million. So the province certainly, that's staff looking at the big picture and saying, okay, so this is, a water reservoir and trunk main project. And so big picture for both Laurentian Valley and Pembroke, and certainly worthwhile and ahead, almost ahead of the time, setting us up for many years to come. One thing that gets me is always, and I know we've had conversations before, is the qualified individuals that we have and trying to keep those qualified individuals, and seemingly other municipalities that don't have qualified individuals or as qualified, and the poaching that goes on basically, and then the employees go to this municipality or that municipality, and I don't blame them. They all have situations at home, and they all have to pay for their homes and their cars and everything else, and so they're looking for the best possible dollar for what it is that they're the hard day that they put in, and in the case of water and wastewater, even evenings. So I get that. One thing that concerns me, like everything you've said, makes perfect sense, and what I compare it to. So Councillor Purcell compares it to the health unit. I compare it to Ottawa River Power and Ottawa River Energy, and in 2000, what went on there. And yes, they don't touch Mississippi Mills, doesn't touch Beachburg, doesn't touch Pembroke, and so forth. But we make it work. But all of your comments are right on the money in terms of, if you're going to have a board, it has to be qualified individuals. It shouldn't be just whoever, because you need a certain skill set around the table, and all of that makes sense. One thing that concerns me, though, and I don't know how one deals with that, is that if this group says, okay, we're going to do this and so forth, but yet a neighboring, not touching, but a neighboring municipality says we're not game, we're not doing it, and so forth. You're still going to have, are you not, different municipalities, quote unquote, poaching qualified individuals, and if they're paying more and whatnot, those qualified individuals are going somewhere else. And I understand what you're saying, well, you just transition those contracts, but these people are employees of the city of Pembroke in our case, and so you're severing that, and they're going with this new organization, this new entity, but still, if a neighboring municipality that has water and wastewater wants qualified individuals, how do you stop them from necessarily transferring to there? So it's still a concern, like, a discussion for another day or what have you, in terms of how do we get more qualified individuals. I know we constantly meet with the college and so forth. How do you get more qualified individuals that are in this realm? Because you're right, like there is no room for error. You get a Walkerton if there was an error. So, at its worst case scenario. And so, like, even one of the first things we do as municipal councilors is we go on training for water and wastewater to say, okay, this is the importance of water, and when someone takes a glass of water, they need to know that it's fail-safe, that there is no issues with it. So I certainly appreciate all your comments. So the page saying, are we on the right track? Certainly the investigation is on the right track. Do I have concerns and questions? And I'm more in I think Councillor Purcell's camp in terms of if we're looking at it, is it this the vehicle? Is the vehicle, frankly, doing what we did with Township of Laurentian Valley in terms of every 5 years having a study, our rates match each other, and more or less, are we just matching it, like are we complementing each other, and at some point are we not really one municipality? Because that's, in fact, we're part of the greater community, and I do think that we have our CAO there because he's able to provide us additional reports to tell us, his thoughts on it and advise us as a council. So, but I do appreciate everything that you've said. Everything makes sense, and in the sense that I compare it to experiences with Ottawa River Energy. I've never sat on Ottawa River Power, but it's similar concepts in terms of who gets appointed there. Is it a political oriented group, or is it more skill based? What is it that they're doing, and the frustrations if it's not skill based that are sitting around that table. So I appreciate everything that you've said.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Chair. Jim, I think I've seen you somewhere before, maybe at AMO or somewhere.
Were you standing at the bar? I don't know.
No, not me. I think that was
He was
the
called to the
CEO.
I can
bar.
say
That's
that.
his worship.
CEO.
His worship was called to the bar, but a different bar.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
So
Councillor Keel was called to the bar.
the a few years ago, the CEO, Mr. Unruh, and I went to AMO in London, Ontario, a couple years ago, 2 or 3, and we went to the presentation by Oro Medante. This is where I first found out about MSC, along with the CEO. Well, he probably knew about it before me, but obviously, anyhow, because it was his idea to go, and I was interested in it back then, still am, possibility. They've had theirs since 2018, and do you have any feedback from them on how they find it? They use theirs for their wastewater, stormwater, and street lighting, 23,000 population. Do you have any comments on what the feedback from them?
I don't directly, but the folks that I'm working with have been talking to MSCs around the province. There are different ones as well, as Oro-Medontes and stuff. And so, it works. What's clear as we're doing our work is understanding the complexities of what a shareholder wants and how to protect its interests and all that stuff, whether in Oro-Medonte or some other place, is really important. But it seems to be working as best I can tell for Oro-Medonte.
Right.
But I that's just an observation.
And the main advantages of an MSC are in the governance and financing flexibility. Is that the main advantage, rather than dramatic cost reductions?
I think, well, the slide that I had on about full cost recovery in terms of rates is really fundamental. As we get there, some municipalities have a rate policy in order to get the full cost recovery over a number of years. It might be 10 years it takes to get there. I think an MSC is about, as I said before, about capacity building. We particularly when you talk about staffing, that if you can have an organization that's big enough to attract and keep employees, that's a great thing. And it is a challenge. I've lived it where staff have gone to different places because the pastures are a little bit greener, and you never blame them for that. That's exactly what they should be doing. But I think in trying to build some capacity, you can also build some stability at the same time, and that's partly your human resource side. But it's about, I think, finding financial capacity to take care of the spend that's going to have to happen, whether it's taking care of your existing systems or dealing with growth. It's finding that kind of capacity. And for municipalities, as I said, there's some interest in the debt issue and whether or not new debt can be taken on by an MSC and freeing you to have the capacity to take, if you need to invest in roads or something else. That's an interest that we keep hearing about. So it's sort of multifaceted, but it's got to be the right thing for you as a community to do, and we appreciate that.
And you can't transfer the debt.
No,
you only assume new debt, right?
Yeah, my understanding, it's just new debt, but you can work with an MSC to help fund that existing debt that was part of your system.
Okay.
So there may be a different way of doing it, making the MSC making a payment to the municipality to help fund that existing debt for those assets that you had as you took it into the
Right.
MSC corporation. So
And as far as oversight goes, once the rates are set, that's it. Like with city council, we set the rates for the water and sewer. So maybe this question is premature, but the structure of the board, they set the rate and that's it.
that's the way we think it should go, is to allow the board to set those rates if they're going to truly be independent. Part of qualifying as a government business enterprise and being able to do what an MSC can do is having control, and that control is also to do with rate setting. So it's important that the board be able to do that freely. But again, the shareholder direction documents are part of what the shareholders say to the board is what we want. And it's something like moving to full cost recovery over 10 years or 15 years or whatever the right number is, and the rates get set according to that kind of policy. But that's coming from the shareholder, i.e. the municipal members.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Keel.
So obviously a lot of information to be taken in today, and I appreciate, Jim, you coming to see us. As the Deputy Mayor said, I think both Roma conferences that I've been at, this has been a topic over the last couple of years. And certainly I appreciate and thank Dave for the work that he's been doing in pulling this down the road. I think the reality at the end of the day is there's going to be pluses and minuses to no matter what we do. Our current track where we're doing it ourselves is certainly seeing, rate increases much larger than in past decades. And as far as I can tell, the outlook of that isn't going to change anytime soon. The reality is, as I think almost every speaker said tonight, the wastewater and the water has to work. There's just no choice. When it comes budget time, for me, one of the easiest decisions at budget is just following our rate study, saying this is what you need, this is what you need to charge. Do I like it? No. I own 2 buildings in Pembroke. I'm paying water for both of them. One's a commercial building. But at the end of the day, I think we have to wait and see what the final report is. I'm thinking that'll be, we'll probably want some very detailed thoughts and meeting on that one. But to take advantage of things like economies of scale, that's nothing new. The mayor points out ORPC, ORES. Yep. Troy points out the health unit. In some ways, the way that the OPP sells itself is economies of scale, and so this is nothing new really. This I think the type of vehicle that we're looking at is a little newer compared to the other things. But the idea of municipalities coming together and working on a single project is not even remotely new. So in that sense, I'm not scared by this, but I do recognize that it might not be perfect, but I'm okay with that because our current system is far from perfect. I think everyone around this table was extraordinarily happy that we were able to get the 28 million from the province, but at the same time, we can't necessarily operate knowing that kind of money does, it kind of falls when it falls. It's not predictable, it's not stable. I'm happy that our staff put together frankly award-winning amount this time around, but the next grant we apply for we might not get. The province told us at the last Roma that their recreation grant was, I think it was at the time scheduled for 200 million over a couple of years, and it was oversubscribed to the tune of $1 billion. Now they just added an extra 100 million to it in this year's budget, but at the end of the day, I think I'm in favor of continuing this discussion. I'm in favor of continuing to go down this road. I think there are going to be lots of questions, and I have lots, which I'm realizing now I'm not going to bother asking here. But at the end of the day, doing the same thing that has been happening, I think is just getting squeezed out of future possibility. That's how I'm looking at this. So I'm happy to keep this going. I'm very happy that Dave is continuing to work on this, and I look forward to seeing the final report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purcell. Pardon me? Sorry, Keel. Sorry, I was looking at Councillor Purcell. You're both quite versed in what you do. Thank you. My apologies. Jim, if I may, I remember being around the table when the Walkerton issue took place, and I remember calling Justice O'Connor and asking him, what is going to happen now? And he said, hang on to your hat, because there's going to be a lot of increases in doing business with municipalities as far as clean water goes. It was just as an aside. And ever since then, we have had to become fiscally responsible, ensure that we're operating at a decent rate where we can pay for what we're getting. The taxpayer may find that a little difficult, because when you look at the increases in the percentages from over a 10-year period, it's pretty astounding. You know what I mean? If you have a good salary, you got 2 people working in a household, bringing in a fair amount of dough, you have a successful business perhaps that, you can absorb some of those costs and pass them along to your client, then, you can compensate for that. But otherwise, I think a lot of people across the province of Ontario, not only here, having difficulty. The EORN, a project, which you worked very hard at, I know, along with Warden Sweet, I think at the time, and you came to us asking for our support, and I think we did. We did
Yes, you
support you, did we not?
Yes, financially as well.
Yes, and we looked at that as something that would be good for the entire region, not just for us. Maybe we really didn't need it, but it compensated everybody around us to show them that not only were we a good neighbor, but we believed in the technology of the future that was coming. And it would be, it'd probably be advantageous to us in the long run. Every time I heard the word Eorn, I thought of Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore. Every time you guys came here, that's what I thought of, but I knew how important it was. And it just didn't happen. It's because of people like you with your nose to the grindstone attitude that these things happened. And I can also remember in the past, I'm going to go on for a little bit here because I think partnerships, we have to talk about them and how they evolve. Years ago when we were looking for a waste management site, and I know that our venerable councillor here, Councillor Plummer, sits on the board of directors for the waste management site. And Councillor Witt at the time came to Pembroke Council and he begged us. He didn't ask. He said, well, I'm begging you to join us because without you guys, we can't do it. And I mean, I shouldn't say beg. He was selling what they had to offer. They had the property. We had the garbage. So it had to go somewhere, the waste. So, but I think that was an excellent, excellent move in the long run. And now we're looking at other plans, right, Councillor Plummer, on, would you like to comment on that, or what's going to happen, or in the very near future?
Sure. Well, the site currently is about, currently about 10, maybe 11 years out, from closure to being full. So we're in the process of looking at ways to upgrade the current area, either expand the footprint or go higher, go wider, see what other things we can do. And we're working with the province and along with our engineering company as well, WSP, to make sure we get it right for the next 30, 40 years, because we want to make sure that whatever happens with that site, we want to make sure that it's done correctly the first time, and it does take time to do. So that's why we're looking at it now, because we have 10 years to figure it out and get this right, because you want to do it once.
Thank you. Getting back to the water issue, that we had a number of people that died in Walkerton, and many that are sick. They're probably sick to this day. They had damage to their intestinal systems, et cetera. And when you've got bacteria such as Cryptosporidium giardia, which cannot actually be killed in the long process, even with chlorine, they build a little sac around themselves and get through your system. But water in our province, as compared to anywhere in the world, I think is exceptional. I was in Bosnia. I saw kids taking a drink of water out of a pothole in the road, and I thought about our own children, grandchildren. I said, we're doing the right thing. Sure, it costs you money to do that, but what would you want? You want to drink out of a puddle, or do you want to have safe drinking water? I'm going to close with, we are a member of the county. And as you're proposing in your proposal here, you're going to have a committee A and B of consultants and also municipal partners. There's $300 billion expenditure that's sort of been looked at. I just saw a documentary the other night about the City of Toronto. They may need $10 billion of that to upgrade their water system. They're a large entity. We're a small entity, but we still exist and we still supply water. The county of Renfrew, even though, we supply a great deal of funds to them, and I know we have a pretty good relationship. I know the mayor's built a good relationship with them and other members of council as well over the past. But we always have a bit of that feeling, we're sitting there, we're giving you our money, but we really don't have anything to really say. We can't veto that. We can't say we're not going to give it to you. The province mandates that you will support those projects, which we do. And of course we want to. It's health and, all the other projects that we support. We know that that's good for everybody. But your proposal of having a board of directors, I think, is exceptional, where everybody has a say, even though you may be contributing, I don't know, $1 million and somebody else is contributing $25 million, you have a say. You have a vote. And I think that's exceptional. And I think if that will be the outcome, then I think this will have some very positive impact on what you're talking about. So I want to thank you. I know how hard you've worked over the past as a municipal employee. Of course, your mayor probably never said you worked that hard, but I know because I've met you at conferences. I've seen you in places. You've been here a number of times. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing that with us, and that people have to understand how important, these particular assets are, not only to us as a small community, but to everyone in the province of Ontario. So thank you, Jim. And did you want to close with anything?
Yeah, I'll just close by saying, I know it's true. It doesn't go unnoticed the way that Pembroke works with its neighbors and with municipalities across the province. You've always done it. Whether it's supporting EORN or this work or other work. And I think, I always like to say thank you when it's due. And I'm saying it tonight because you should get credit for the kind of support that the city provides in these very complex things sometimes. And so I appreciate the fact that you give me a little bit of time on behalf of LAS and the study group to come and talk about this particular idea. And I think the citizens of Pembroke and Renfrew County are well served by the way you approach things. And I don't mind saying that. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you. We're looking forward to more information coming forth. I thank you on behalf of His Worship and members of council and our staff. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
You're in your 5-minute.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I've been, I spent 33 years as a CAO, but 40 plus in municipal affairs. And I just wanted to say thank you to each of you as elected officials for doing the job that you do. I've been to a couple of councils just to say that. It's not an easy job to be an elected official. It's hard. And I have no advice for you how to do your job other than just to say thank you for doing it. And I hope if those of you who are running again that you're successful. And for those that will come after, service is really above self when you become an elected official. And I just want to say thank you because I think local government is the cornerstone of our democracy writ large. And when people have confidence in the elected officials that sit around the council tables, we're all better for it. But I know it's not it's not an easy job to do, but thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Much
that.
appreciated. Thank you for
Appreciate
coming.
Thank you. Thanks. And I'm going to the Nook.
Lots of money, economic development in Pembroke. Thank you. Good night. Under new business, we have Fire Department March report. Chief Sell, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to allow me to do my monthly report in the Planning Committee. I appreciate it. For clarity purposes, I'd just like to bring forward a couple of comments that were made earlier. There's 16 municipalities in the county of Renfrew that have a fire service. The city of Pembroke has a fire service, so that's 17 municipal fire departments. Pikwakanagan has a fire service, Garrison Petawawa has a fire service, and Canadian Nuclear Laboratories have a fire service. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't speak of the duplication of services. To me, a municipality providing a fire service under the legislation in Municipality A and a municipality in Municipality B providing fire services under the the legislation is not a duplication of services. Where I see the duplication of services is where you have an entity that is coming in and providing another service which the taxpayers have already supported and funded over a number of years. Namely, we could, for example, like water rescue services. So that's my interpretation of the duplication of services. As far as fire prevention activities for March, I'd like to thank firefighter Matt Troutman, who has been coordinating and delivering the successful junior firefighter program over March break for a number of years now. This program is a partnership with the Pembroke Public Library, and every year we max out at the number of children that we can safely allow to attend this event at the fire hall. And they spend the day training and learning about fire safety with Sparky and the firefighters. And I'd like to say thank you to all the families that participate annually. We conducted several extinguisher demonstrations and training with the students at Fellows High School. Our Stop Texting campaign is still ongoing. Vehicle magnets are available at city offices, the Pembroke Fire Department, and the OPP station. Initial meetings with the emergency management group is underway, and they are the consultants that are conducting the community risk assessment. Timeline again for the completion is the end of 2026, and I just ask that if emergency management group does reach out to you, they will be reaching out to. I know they will be reaching out to the mayor. And definitely they'll be reaching out to other city departments. I just ask that you provide the information they're looking for in a timely manner so we can move the project along. Our partnership with the Renfrew County Fire Departments is going to continue now that the Eganville leader is going to continue business. And on Pure Country, our information focused on carbon monoxide legislation and ice safety. Social media in March, we gained 15 new followers on Facebook for a total of 1,484. We had roughly 58,000 views of our content. The most viewed content was the post regarding our emergency exercise. Fire prevention messaging focused on carbon monoxide safety, smoke alarm safety tips, our junior firefighter program, home fire escape planning, and fire safety tips for pet owners. Emergency management, we focused on power outage safety, emergency exercise announcement, winter storms, and then we shared information on water levels and flooding, freezing rain safety tips, and ice safety. One thing to note on the emergency management side of things, the spring freshet meetings have begun. You'll notice I haven't been giving very many updates recently just because there isn't a whole lot of action going on. But I noticed that in the last week that the Ottawa River is starting to open up, so I expect there to be a little bit more information flowing from those meetings. And partner agencies, we shared the Firefighters Association Pancake Breakfast, which is this Saturday at the Pembroke Fire Department. We shared the OPP Scam and Fraud Awareness Presentation notice, and of course we shared the OFM Slow Down and Move Over campaign. Under education, our first ever learning contract with the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office is currently underway, and it is for the Water Rescue 1006 through the NFPA. Students will complete the theory portion in April with the practical component scheduled in May. I have complete confidence in our staff that this will be a successful course. We've been training to this level since roughly about 2006. Acting Captain Jason Kelly completed his NFPA 1041 Instructor 1, and I attended the Fire Chiefs Northeastern Fire Educational Conference and the Fire Coordinators Symposium. In emergency management, so our exercise planning committee, we still meet. Right now we're on almost a weekly meeting, and we're putting the finishing touches on our exercise, which is planned for April 22nd, 2026. And the exercise is scheduled for the entire day. Information on flood preparation and prevention was delivered to all properties deemed to be high-risk flooding locations in the city. These information packages are delivered annually prior to the spring melt and the opening of the rivers that flow through the city. Under emergency management and coming forward later tonight, there'll be a bylaw bringing forward a request for entering an agreement for a transfer payment. We were successful in the emergency management grant this year. We formed a committee at the advice of the Emergency Management Program Committee, and we looked at our previous unsuccessful grant applications. We looked at what was successful from previous grant applications from other municipalities, and we revised our approach. So we are now we're going to be able to purchase through this grant equipment that will help flood mitigation, as well as recovery and resilience from windstorms and things like that. Also, too, in there is going to be some staff training that that falls under the grant. Our EOC training room hosted 7 meetings in the month of March. The Pembroke Professional Firefighters Association hosted the annual Elwyn Ducro Memorial Emergency Services Hockey Tournament. So congratulations to Garrison Petawawa as they unseated the defending champions in the final game to take home the trophy. Funds raised through this tournament go towards supporting families with registration and equipment fees for children in various minor sports leagues in the city. The association also sponsored a March break swim at Kinsman Pool. And once again, as a reminder, the pancake breakfast is this Saturday from 8 to 11, and all proceeds go towards support of the Pembroke and Laurentian Valley handy bus. Our training for the month of March, once again, the focus right now is going to be mostly on the water rescue theory portion, and then the practical portion will wrap up over 2 weeks in May. Once that's complete, in the fall we will tackle the ice portion of it, which will be similar, a 2-month period where the practical or the theory will be handled, and then a 2-week period where the practical exercises will be conducted. Recreational burning. So right now we're still seeing it's still pretty slow as far as renewals go. Total permits to date are 46, and we'll be looking at that increasing once the snow's gone. Our smoke alarm program saw 15 inspections with 39 alarms tested. 3 alarms were not working, and these 3 alarms were not working obviously because of the 3 batteries we replaced, but we also did install 1 new alarm, which was purchased by the homeowner. Our consultations and inspections, we had 134 consultations and inspections in the month. 3 fire safety plans were reviewed. March was one of the busier Marches that we've had in quite a few years, with 46 responses. In the table, I've broken up the rescue category, and I've showed now where motor vehicle collisions, so 6 motor vehicle collisions in March. I've also added mutual aid responses and fire service agreement responses. Those would be at the behest of Councillor Lafreniere. So when you see numbers in those, I will do my best to clarify where they were. So those 2 last columns will be out of the city responses. And we had 4 letters of warning. And just prior to shortly after sending this report in, we did deliver a couple of, we did issue a couple of fines. So those will be on the next monthly report.
Questions of council? Comments? Councillor Purcell?
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, there's 17 municipalities, but there's 30 to 35 detachments or departments located. There's multiple locations in smaller municipalities, according to Google AI. Anyway, I think the services I was talking about is like fire protection services. That's something that could be spread across multiple department service providers. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you very much for your report, and I also wanted to say about the upcoming pancake breakfast this Saturday, that it's a great opportunity to come out and support the firefighters, a good cause. So that's Saturday, so we'll see you there on Saturday. In terms of insurance, I know the insurance costs have gone up tremendously for everybody that's done a renewal in terms of their automobile or their house insurance. And I know there were some discussions in regards to costing of fire departments and those kinds of things. I could tell you right now that my insurance in Alumet Island, without a plowed road, is still cheaper to provide those fire services there than there are here. So, so I'm just curious whenever I see those rate increases, and knowing that I'm just in the right proximity in terms of a fire hydrant. You know, those costs are becoming exorbitant for the average person in regards to insurance costs, and the fire costs is the ones that actually went up this year. So thank you.
Through you,
Keith?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
With our responses this month, we had 2 fire responses. The 2 fire responses, one response was the reason for the estimated dollar loss of $5,000. That was improper use of like improperly discarded smoking materials, which ignited the exterior of the building. And our response times allowed us to get there quickly, extinguish the fire, kept it to a minimal damage. I think if things would have not gone the way they did, that house would have been lost.
So there was a barn fire in Laurentian Valley in terms of a silo, thanks to some quick action from somebody that was driving by on the highway, that there was very little to zero damage in terms of that silo fire too, right on the highway. So I appreciate where you're coming from.
Further? Your worship?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simply to say well done in terms of the grant application, looking at the fact that we were unsuccessful previously and looking at successful ones and saying, okay, how can I revamp it to ensure that we're successful, or at least do our best to be successful in the future. So well done doing that and learning from prior situations and getting us some extra funds.
Chief, if I may, from the chair, the water levels, I mean, it's been kind of an odd year with snow, no snow, hot, cold. Are there any predictions, or should people be anticipating an extraordinary year as far as water levels go, or in your opinion, as a professional chief?
The feedback that I've been getting from the initial freshet meetings is that conditions are relatively normal. So take it for what it's worth. I believe that they were relatively normal in 2023 and 2024. So I think the next few weeks will impact that, and the biggest impact that I've seen over the few years I've been doing this is the rainfall. If we can get a fairly dry spring with not a lot of heavy rainfall, that seems to allow the water to get away. But it's the rainfall that really impacts the flooding.
Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. Chief, I just want to thank you and the department. As chair of on behalf of the Pembroke Public Library Board, as chair, and the mayor sits on the board too. Thanks for all the partnerships you do with the public library. It's really appreciated by the staff and all the patrons of the library, because it's all about partnerships. And I'm sure if you could take more children to the fire hall, you would. But it really means a lot to those children and families. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else? Have a good evening. Good night. Welcome again, Director Soriol.
Hello.
You have an item that we're bringing forward, a one-year extension on the Brundridge Farm subdivision.
Yes.
Can you bring us up to date on that one, please?
Sure. So the recommendation is that the City of Pembroke's Planning and Development Committee endorse and recommend to Council that a one-year extension be granted to Bear Invest Limited. So you may remember that the city approved an offer to purchase for Brundridge Farm. Well, you may not remember, it was in 2011 from Burcom Development, and it's approximately an area of 35 acres, and the subdivision is approved for 129 lots for single detached dwellings. The offer was subject to the developer obtaining a subdivision agreement within 3 years of this purchase. The 3 years expired in 2014, and extensions have been granted, with the last agreement being for a 1-year period. And the present extension is set to expire on June 13th, 2026. So Burcom Developments submitted an application for a plan of subdivision in 2015. The application included a Stage 2 archaeological report, a species at risk report, a functional servicing and stormwater management report, and a traffic impact study. They received draft plan approval for their subdivision in 2015. However, they have yet to enter into a subdivision agreement. So according to one of the partners, Jim Craig, it's now called Bear Invest and not Burcom anymore, they have continued to complete the engineering for phase 1 of the subdivision. Their consultant will be making a further submission in response to the city's comments on the engineering plans that were submitted. They're also working with JP2G consultants on utility designs, and the developer has been in contact with ORPC, and they're working on a hydro agreement for phase 1 in 2026. Once an agreement with ORPC is reached, then this agreement would become an appendix to the city's subdivision agreement. The developer has a draft copy of a 49M plan, which illustrates phase 1, which consists of 40 lots and blocks for stormwater management ponds. An application for absolute title was approved in January of 2025. There was an issue regarding a proposed drainage easement. Staff worked with the developer to look at alternative drainage routes, and it was determined to allow the drainage to continue on its natural course without the need for an easement. All of the required studies to complete have been completed, and the next step is to enter into a subdivision agreement with the city and provide a registered plan of subdivision. The subdivision agreement requires completed engineering drawings as well as the ORPC agreement, and the developer has indicated their desire to enter into a subdivision agreement in 2026. The developer has indicated they have spent well over $300,000 to date on this project, and they're respectfully asking that council recognize this effort as a significant commitment and that the council approve another year extension or remove the buyback provision that formed part of the original agreement. So we looked at several alternatives: not to extend the agreement and buy back the land from the developer, extend the agreement by 1 year or more, or remove the buyback clause and delete any related provision from title. Therefore, if this option was approved, Bear Invest would not have to come back to council to extend the agreement. Staff is recommending option 2 to allow an extension. This way, city can ensure that the original condition of entering into a subdivision agreement has been met and the buyback clause can be eliminated at that time.
Comments, Councillor Purcell? Oh, sorry. Councillor Keel. I got Purcell on the brain tonight. I'm sorry. Sorry, I apologize, Councillor Purcell and Councillor Keel.
It's okay, Councillor Purcell. We've only been here for 3 years.
It's okay. I'm getting used to you. Go ahead.
I got to tell you, Colleen, I'm very frustrated by this. There was a reason we gave them a 1-year extension last time, was because we were frustrated last time. Looking at your report, they were supposed to get started within 3 years, which ended in 2014. We're now 2026. I don't even know. I'm not the best at math, but that's what, 4 more 3-year. So I mean, we know houses need to be built, and yet time and time again we're sitting here talking about our subdivisions, which we've approved. We've done our work here at the city. It's developers and builders that aren't putting foundations in the ground and getting houses built. And I know it's not. I know it's nothing that we're doing. I mean, I just think. Stewart Street. That was land, partially land sold during this term of council, and there's already houses built and more houses being built on the way. I mean, there's no problems there. So I take exception to the fact that when this council back in, I guess, 2011 said, we'll give this to you with a 3-year expectation, that we're now, we're now over a decade later and still nothing's being done. And my biggest problem, and this is, I don't want you to take this personally with your report, while this tells me some stuff that they've done over the past year, I think the question that I want to know is, when are houses going to be built? And that's not in this report. So I am not prepared to grant them. I'm sure as hell not taking out the buyback clause. I don't know what kind of fanciful thought that one was. But in my opinion, I don't think we should be granting them anything until someone tells me what the plan forward looks like. Because I think council last year did express actual frustration, and we said it's because I think they were looking for another multi-year extension, and we said no. So I would beg my fellow councillors around this table this time that we start getting serious. This is at least one that we can do something with. In theory, we can exercise the buyback clause and maybe give it to somebody that actually wants to build houses. But I would suggest that today we don't have appropriate information to grant them a 1-year extension. I think we should be asking them what the actual timeline is and when they expect to get houses in the ground. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So similar to what Councillor Keel is saying, my thought is that we defer the matter until and have them come to us in the next month and give definitive milestones as to what it is that they're doing, when they're going to achieve it. And as Councillor Keel says, is that there's no way in whatever that we're removing the buyback. Like, there's just no. But come to us come next month, come in May, give us the information, give us milestones. This is what we're going to achieve on the following occasions. If you're that close, which is what I think is being implied, is we're that close, we're almost have this agreement, we almost have this, well, then give us the milestones on this. This is what it's going to transpire. And if it means that we're going to sit here at some extra council meetings and we're going to babysit the bloody thing, well, that's what we're going to do. But we need houses built. And so if that's what it takes to make a developer do what they need to do, I guess that's what we're doing.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. So Councillor Keel and the CEO, Mr. Unruh, and I went to Roma, and we sat across from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And thank you, Ms. Soil, for the information and advice you gave us before we went in to the meeting. And we suggested some options, some tools that the province could give us to incentivize or push the envelope. And if the subdivision is approved, you need to build within 3 years. We asked for that. We gave them the briefing document. We haven't heard back yet. Those are the kind of things we need. We need tools to get these developers building once we approve, and we need to work with the developer. We need to work with all the developers. We're looking at development charges now, and we realize the province just made a big announcement last week with the feds, and they don't like high development charges. That's another discussion. But I agree that we should defer this and have the developer come in. We also, 35 acres here, we also have another subdivision, Gulfview, over 200 acres, and that's been ongoing. So
That's a different topic.
That's correct,
We're
it
not
is.
talking about that. We're talking about this.
Well, I'm talking about it.
But we're not. You're out of order,
So,
Deputy Mayor.
anyway-
We're discussing
anyways,
the item on the agenda.
that's fine. Okay, thank
It's
you.
not, that's a separate item.
Okay, so we need to work with the developers, and I agree, have the gentleman come and speak, and move forward from there. Thank you.
Madam Director, it sounds like you have your direction. This is a newly named company. I think they should be invited. You should send them either a phone call, and we want to see them here, and we want to know what they're going to do. We've deferred this, as Councillor Keel had said, over a number of years. And we have to know, what are they going to do? Are they going to sit on this? And then we have our options. And if they know that we are serious, obviously by inviting them here, they'll know that we mean business. And I think if that is what council wants to do, is that correct, Councillor Keel?
For procedure, I would move that we table this matter.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Deputy Mayor, that this be tabled. Thank you.
You need to call the vote to table.
Sorry, is that the question?
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for keeping me in line. We will call the vote. Those in favor? Against? Carried unanimously. Good to have people directing you. Thank you. Next item, Director, bylaw changes, false alarm bylaw, and property standards bylaw.
Okay, so this was an item that was tabled at the March 3rd, 2026 meeting. So the committee tabled this item for more information regarding false alarms. Bylaw 2014-12 defines a false alarm for police services, again, as any alarm incident that is not a valid alarm and shall include any alarm incidents caused by any testing of the alarm, any mechanical failure or malfunction, any user error or monitoring company error, or any atmospheric conditions or electrical power disruptions. So the March 3rd, 2026 report was reviewing two bylaws, the false alarm bylaw and the property standards bylaw. It was noted that both bylaws currently include specific fee amounts to support administrative efficiency and consistency. It is recommended that these fees were removed from their respective bylaws and incorporated into the city's user fee bylaw. And this approach would allow future fee adjustments to be made without requiring amendments to multiple bylaws. All administrative fees would be removed from bylaws and added to the city's user fee bylaw. So the current false alarm fee, as stated under 2014-12, would be transferred to the user fee bylaw, and staff recommended that this existing $300 fee be increased to $455, which is the current OPP fee for service. At the March 3rd Planning and Development Committee meeting, the committee asked how many police attend a false alarm, and if there's more than one officer, then is the city charged $455 per OPP officer. So according to the new detachment commander, Sarah Darrow, she spoke to the OPP Municipal Policing Bureau to get an idea of exactly how a false alarm is billed. So when it comes to false alarms, there's no set cost or flat fee for attending, as it's built into the building model, which is averaged over a 4-year period. So whether one member or 5 members attend a false alarm, it's considered one call for service. The members who attend will complete their daily activity report and indicate the time spent on the call for services, and then that's built into future billing models, which is then applied to the billing group, which includes false alarms. So whether 5, at this point, under this particular model, it's $455 for a false alarm call for service, whether 5, 3, 2, or 1 officer. That could change in the future based on how they, how many officers are attending and how they bill. So according to the user fee bylaw, the fire department also has a fire alarm bylaw as well. And the property owner's first false alarm is a letter of warning, which is the same as the police false alarm. And the second false alarm within a 12-month period is $354. And then a third false alarm is $708.75. But that's based on the fire department's costing. Secondly, the administrative fee of $50 in the property standards bylaw is an administrative fee that's charged to the owner of the property if a property standards order is not complied with. So the cost to clean up the property is paid by the city and then charged to the property taxes. We added a $50 admin fee, which is meant to cover staff time and costs associated with processing the fee to the property taxes. So an increase to $200 would better reflect actual staff and administration costs. Accordingly, staff recommend that these fees be removed from the individual bylaws and incorporated into the user fee bylaw. This approach allows council to consider and amend fees as required without the need to reopen multiple bylaws. And staff will continue to review other city bylaws to determine if additional fees are embedded within the bylaw text, and any others will be brought forward. So just under the financial comment, the false alarm fee of $300 has never been increased since 2014, since the inception of the bylaw. And again, we're recommending that it be increased to cover the call for the service. The property standards bylaw, it was also recommended or suggested by the Planning and Development Committee at the March 3rd meeting to better reflect staff time and administration costs, that we increase that from $50 to $200. So your direction is required.
Recommendation by staff, discussion. Councillor Keel, Councillor Purcell.
Just one question. So the 455, that's just the OPP cost. That doesn't cover any of our administrative time?
No, that doesn't cover any of our administrative time.
Okay. So I will move that the Planning and Development Committee directs staff to remove the prescribed fees currently contained in the false alarm bylaw and the property standards bylaw and incorporate these fees into the city's user fee bylaw. And furthermore, that the Planning and Development Committee endorse and recommend to Council that the administrative fee in the Property Standards Bylaw 2021-35 be increased to $200, and the fee in the False Alarms Bylaw 2014-12 be increased to $475, with these revised fees to be added to the city's user fee bylaw. And that extra $20 was to our administrative side of things, if that 455 is completely OPP.
There's a motion on the floor. Is a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Purcell. Discussion.
Just that if, would the 470 from the 455 cover the cost, or should we just put 455 plus city costs in terms of revised fees?
It's easier if there is a
The
flat
dollar
fee with really just to it.
And
So
does $20, $25 cover it?
probably not, but it is a big increase from $300 to $475. And I mean, that's something, we look at the fees annually. So maybe then next year I can come back with something else. And there may be a 2027 OPP modeling that we'll have to look at that as well.
Okay.
Further discussion? Deputy Mayor, do you have your hand up? No? Okay. No further discussion. Your worship, nothing? Those in favor? Against? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
No further business before the committee. We have Councillor Keel asking for an adjournment, seconded by Councillor Purcell, immediately to his left. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Thank you. Got to keep
Good evening, everyone. Before calling this council meeting to order for April 7th, I would ask those who wish and are able to please stand for an opening prayer of guidance and or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Calling this meeting to order, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in relation to the council meeting agenda? Seeing none. We have a series of minutes this evening to work our way through. First up is a special meeting of council of March 17, 2026. I'd entertain a motion for it. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor? That is carried. Next is regular meeting of council March 17th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Last 4 minutes is special meeting of council March 24th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Purcell and seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. And we have adoption of minutes from committees. We have one this evening. Planning and Development Committee, which was March 3rd, 2026. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. And we have receiving one set of minutes from a local board, being the Pembroke Public Library, January 15th, 2026. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. No delegations and presentations this evening, nor staff committee reports. Brings us to proclamations. First proclamation for this evening is Cancer Awareness Month. So whereas people in our community are touched by cancer every day, and whereas nearly 1 in 2 Canadians are expected to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, and whereas over 100 Canadian Cancer Society volunteers in the city of Pembroke, along with thousands of volunteers across Ontario, are showing their support for people living with cancer throughout the month of April. And whereas for more than 50 years, people in our community have helped the Canadian Cancer Society during the Daffodil Month campaign, raising funds for cancer patients and their families through life-saving cancer research, support services, and other important work that means fewer people will be affected by this disease. Whereas the daffodil is a symbol of strength and courage, a symbol of life for the Canadian Cancer Society, and in April, hundreds of volunteers will be knocking on the doors and selling daffodil pins in our community to raise and inviting others to join in the fight by wearing a daffodil pin. So cancer remains the leading cause of death in Canada. It seems that this disease has touched most of us in one way or another, whether it be ourselves, a loved one, a friend, or a friend of a friend, a neighbor, or even complete strangers who have read stories on the internet. Today, there's approximately 1.5 million Canadians living with and beyond cancer. This month, let us recognize the countless researchers, healthcare practitioners, volunteers, caregivers, policymakers, community members who continue to be innovative in advanced cancer research and care across the country. Let us also acknowledge the courage and strength of patients who motivate us all each and every day. So therefore, I, Ron Gerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim the month of April to be Cancer Awareness Month and urge all citizens of Pembroke to join in the fight and give generously to the Canadian Cancer Society. Next proclamation is Parkinson's Awareness Month, whereas Parkinson's disease, for which there is no known cure, is a progressive degenerative neurological disorder which can cause tremors or trembling of the arms and the legs, muscular rigidity, slowness of movement, and difficulty with speaking and swallowing. And whereas the Parkinson Society of Canada provides information, consultation, support services, and educational seminars for people living with Parkinson's disease and their families to promote better understanding of this disorder. And where it is desirable to increase the level of understanding of Parkinson's disease and the needs of persons living with this disease. Let us reflect upon spreading the knowledge, understanding, and awareness of the Parkinson's disease. Let us also take time to celebrate the many stories of those living with this disease, most notably Michael J. Fox, who is an inspiration for all of us and for all those individuals with this condition. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Ron Gerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Parkinson's Awareness Month in the City of Pembroke. Okay. Next, I do hereby declare April 4th to the 10th, 2026 as National Dental Hygienist Week in the City of Pembroke. Whereas 59% of Canadian children and 96% of adults have experienced cavities, and 21% of the Canadian adults have experienced periodontal gum disease issues. And whereas research shows a direct link between oral health and overall health and well-being, such as periodontal disease being linked to several serious illnesses, including lung disease, diabetes, and heart disease. And whereas oral health issues are easily preventable and treatable, and Canadians, especially children and seniors, can be greatly assisted through early detection and intervention. And whereas dental hygiene is the 7th largest regulated health profession in Canada, with more than 35,000 dental hygienists working in a variety of settings with people of all ages addressing issues related to oral health. And whereas greater awareness of proper oral health practices and the need to regularly visit a dental professional is paramount to ensuring Canadians lead healthier and happier lives. And whereas promoting the importance of the issue of celebrating the successes of the profession and contributions of dental hygienists will lead to an increase in public awareness. So as indicated, oral health is important and a serious matter impacting all of us. And I really am very appreciative of the line in the proclamation that we need to promote the importance of dental issues and celebrate the successes of the contributions of dental hygienists that lead to increased public awareness. Particularly for myself personally is the link between the oral health and the issues with respect to those living with diabetes. So, therefore, be it resolved that I, Ron Gerva, do hereby proclaim April 4th through the 10th, 2026 as National Dental Hygienist Week in the City of Pembroke. And thank you to our CAO in reference to the changing of the lights in respect to City Hall to again acknowledge and to amplify this particular proclamation and need to bring about awareness in respect to and recognition in respect to dental hygienists and overall oral health care. Lastly, I do hereby declare April 13th through the 19th, 2026 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in the City of Pembroke. Whereas emergencies can strike without warning, requiring immediate action and the involvement of highly trained emergency services, and whereas the ambulance communication officers of the Renfrew Central Ambulance Communications Center serve as a vital first point of contact in these critical moments, providing calm, professional, and compassionate support to those in need. And whereas ambulance communications officers coordinate paramedic services and fire departments across a large and diverse geographic area, ensuring the right resources are sent when they are needed and where they are needed. And whereas their knowledge, skill, and ability to remain composed under pressure play a critical role in the timely and effective response to emergencies, helping to protect life and property. And whereas their work connects the public with emergency responders, supporting both those in distress and those with personnel responding to calls for service. And whereas the dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the public safety contribute daily to the well-being and resilience of our community. Whereas National Public Safety Telecommunications Week provides an opportunity to recognize and thank those individuals for the essential role that they play in emergency responses. Every year during the second week of April, the telecommunications personnel in the public safety community are honored. This week-long event is a time to celebrate and thank those who dedicate their lives to serving the public. It is this week that should be set aside so everyone can be made aware of their hard work and dedication. We encourage everyone to celebrate and honor these individuals for all the sacrifices they make to create a better and safer community, province, and country for the public. These incredible men and women provide 24/7, 365-degree services to the residents of our entire county, including that of the City of Pembroke. And so therefore, be it resolved that I, Ron Jerva, do hereby proclaim April 13th through the 19th, 2026 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in the City of Pembroke, and encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate the important contributions of our local ambulance communication officers. That brings us to bylaws. First up is 2026-31 Silver Stick Financial Contributions Agreement. Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2026-31, a bylaw to authorize the Corporation of the City of Pembroke to enter into an agreement with the Silver Stick Committee for a financial contribution toward the city's purchase of an ice resurfacer be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation.
So moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell, the bylaw 2026-31, a bylaw to authorize the Corporation of the City of Pembroke to enter into an agreement with the Silver Stick Committee for the financial contribution towards the city's purchase of an ice resurfacer be adopted and passed, and further the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Keel.
Sometimes the title gives it away, Your Worship. This is a bylaw involving an agreement that we're entering into with the Silver Stick Committee to purchase a new ice resurfacer. This agreement was introduced to the Parks and Rec Committee in March, and a motion was carried to endorse and recommend for council approval.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next bylaw is 2026-32, Friends of the Regional Pool Committee Memorandum of Understanding. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Troy Purcell. The bylaw 2026-32, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the Corporation of the City of Pembroke and the Friends of the Regional Pool Committee be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed with the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. The bylaw 2026-32, a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the Corporation of the City of Pembroke and the Friends of the Regional Pool Committee be adopted and passed. The further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Deputy Mayor.
Your Worship, this agreement was introduced to the Parks and Recreation Committee in February. At that time, there were some financial discrepancies related to assets or financial proceeds raised on behalf of the pool in the event that the committee disbanded or ceased operations. Those discrepancies have now been resolved, and the MOU is ready for signatures by the parties. The motion was carried to endorse and recommend to council the approval of the MOU. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next is 2026-33 transfer payment agreement. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Jacquinot, that bylaw 2026-33 to authorize the entering into the corporation agreement for emergency preparedness between His Majesty the King and the Right of Ontario and the Corporation City of Pembroke be adopted and passed. Further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and seal the seal of the corporation.
So moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Jacquinot, that bylaw 2026-33 to authorize the entering into of a contribution agreement for emergency preparedness between His Majesty the King and the Right of Ontario and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, seal with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Plummer.
Yes, this bylaw will complete the transfer agreement between the City of Pembroke and the Province of Ontario, finalize the process to receive funding through the Community Emergency Preparedness Grant. The Community Emergency Preparedness Grant Program will help our community purchase critical supplies and equipment and deliver training to improve the local emergency response. The grant enhances the resiliency of the City of Pembroke by helping us prepare for natural hazards and emergencies and ensure that we have the resources we need to keep people safe when the next emergency impacts Pembroke.
Very good. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Are there any motions? No correspondence. Mayor's reports. So good evening, everyone. I wish to bring forward my mayor's report at this time. As we know, we have now a new detachment commander. So on March 9th, interviews were conducted for the detachment commander position. What was unique this time was that there was board chairs from all of the different 4 boards present, as opposed to previously there was only 2 boards present for said hiring. Pleased to inform you, as you know, that Sarah Dara has been hired as our detachment commander due to the vacancy created by Stefan Newfield being promoted to superintendent. So well done, and we look forward to working with her as we move forward. On behalf of council, I was pleased on March 21st to be joined by the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Keel at Pembroke Branch Legion 72 holding their volunteer awards ceremony, and so great opportunity to meet. And at that time, the City of Pembroke was recognized by Branch 72 for our outstanding service and aims of supporting aims and objectives of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 72. So I'll be providing that to staff so that they can certainly give that a prestigious location. March 25th, the Ottawa Valley Historical Society, which is the Heritage Centre, held its AGM. They provided various information, including that over 2,600 volunteer hours were spent last year promoting the mandate of the Heritage Centre. They wanted to recognize the contributions from the City of Pembroke as well as the Township of Laurentian Valley, and it's due to those contributions that allows them to balance their budget. They acknowledged and wanted all of us to know that the individuals attending the Heritage Centre are primarily from Ontario and Quebec, but actually, as Councillor Jacquinot speaks of from time to time, there's a number of individuals that come to Pembroke, Ontario from Europe. And so because they track where people are coming from, it assists us in terms of tourism and understanding, or better understanding, where the individuals are coming to Pembroke from for the purposes of tourism. There was a Kids Day program, and it was supported by Kiwanis Club of Pembroke, Lions Club, Legion Branch 72 that I just spoke of, as well as Alison Fraser Sports. So it's to be recognized that there's various organizations in our community that's supporting the Heritage Centre. It's not just the City of Pembroke as well as the Township of Laurentian Valley, and it's nice to see all these coming together. A new executive has been elected, and the board looks forward to serving the area in 2026. March 27th, on behalf of council, I had the pleasure of welcoming Edwards Jones to their new location at 270 Lake Street under new ownership. Edwards Jones has been a long-standing business in Pembroke, providing expert financial advice to its clients. And so welcome to your new digs on Lake Street. And it is a amalgamation of what was 2 locations in the City of Pembroke, is now all under one roof, an accessible location which was partly affordable and made it happen by way of a CIP grant that came from the city of Pembroke. Later that day, I had the pleasure of joining mayors and CAOs from Township of Whitewater, Petawawa, Township of Laurentian Valley, together with CAOs, including our CAO, as we met with medical residents and had an opportunity to have dinner and conversation about why they should continue to stay in the Pembroke area, locate here, and be doctors here and stay here with their families. I think it was a good takeaway and lots of different discussion. I see our CAO nodding. Lots of discussion as to why they're here. Also takeaways, because it's always helpful to know what's the pitfalls. And so we took away 3 different pitfalls as to issues. One of them being daycare, because some of the residents need daycare because they're raising a family at the same time as being a doctor. I don't even understand or fathom how someone would do that. But in any event, a lot of pressure doing that, but certainly how could we support? The other one was housing. So as I understand it, some of these residents are coming to the area and they cannot find housing. We're back to that topic again, at least affordable, decent housing, I'll put it that way. So a lot of takeaways from the opportunity, a lot of good conversation, and I think we're going to keep a number of these residents here as doctors, just from the fact that apparently we're comparable to, or can be described as, individuals from the East Coast, which I'll take that as a plus, that we're friendly, that we're exceptionally good at including people and welcoming them to our community. So I'll take all of those as wins, and not everyone wants to live in the GTA. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge 2 individuals at this time. One is Carl Sobalski. I'm sure that many of you would have known Carl Sobalski, either as an educator or just a family-oriented individual in our community. I know that I came across Mr. Sobalski as a teacher at Bishop Smith Catholic High, and so certainly he will be greatly missed by his family, but also by the entire community. He was just an overall nice fellow. The second individual is that of Reverend David Metzger Sr., who I got to know through the Kiwanis Club of Pembroke. Again, certainly a very nice gentleman, an individual that you could have a conversation with. His whole family is, between his wife, his David Metzger Jr. and so forth. So just a huge loss to our community to lose these 2 individuals. And anyways, I just want to recognize those 2 individuals. They're individuals that certainly I personally have had contact with, and I know that as a community we mourn with their families. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none. Are there any councillor updates? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few here tonight. First one is on behalf of Councillor Giacono and myself and the members of the Beautification and Climate Advisory Committee. We want to thank the Parks and Recreation staff under the directorship of Mr. DeRoche and the committee, who have come up with a Earth Month calendar here for the month of April. And I've been directed or asked to challenge all my fellow council members to try and see what you can do. This is a contest for families, children. Each day you do the activities with your kids, cross off the day, submit a photo of your activities and your finished calendar to recreation@pembroke.ca for your chance to win some prizes. Each activity completed counts as 1 entry. All the info is at pembroke.ca Earth Month. It's also on the city front page when you go. If you were participating in community cleanup on the actual Earth Day, which is the 22nd of April, you can go to the Pembroke Memorial Centre Parks and Recreation office and pick up garbage bags and gloves from the Park and Recreation Department. Some of the examples of what you can do is pack a waste-free lunch, take a ride using Pembroke's public transit system, look up local farmers markets and make plans to visit one when they open, start planning your flower and vegetable garden for 2026, which we'll be doing for the community garden coming up in June when we go to plant. So we challenge everyone in the community to take part in Earth Month. We want to thank the committee and the Parks and Rec Department for spearheading this activity. We want to thank all the sponsors too. On behalf of the PBA, I just want to mention a couple openings. West on Main moved to 27 Pembroke Street West. My wife and I visited them on their opening day and Saturday, and it is owned by Kaylee and Adam Kuyak. They've been 6 years downtown. They were beside Sipsters, and they moved a block of the bridge. And it was special, meant a lot to me because our store was there, Abdallah Furniture, for over 60 years. The store looks beautiful, so we encourage everyone to go and visit them. They purchased the store. They believe in downtown. It's a major investment. They're heavily involved in the Busker Fest committee also. Alma Suites, official opening today at 74 Pembroke Street West. Tonka is the new proprietor, new business. Lots of experience and in the profession of delicious sweets and pastries. So be sure to go in and say hello to her. And there'll be ribbon cuttings with council and city staff at a later date for these openings. But it's good to see the downtown businesses locating downtown. We know there's some empty storefronts, but they will get filled. They will get filled. On the 21st of March, in addition to the Legion Award ceremony, I also dropped into the Pembroke Public Library to thank the Friends of the Pembroke Public Library for all the work they do at the plant sale and down at the market. And I met Audrey Tuttle there, and Audrey's a personal family friend, Dr. Angus Tuttle's wife, and she was a Friends of the Public Library years ago, and she was doing that with her and a couple other people, and there she was in the library getting some books and that. But we want to thank all these volunteers because we get extra funding from their group, and they're really dedicated, and the library scene means so much to everybody. Great Canadian Baby Company, 4-year anniversary. Miss Kluche, we want to congratulate her. And so just don't forget about the Earth calendar, and we'll get a report from council in a month. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Jacquinot?
Thank you, Your Worship. This may be a little out of left field, but I just want to recognize a member in our gallery here tonight. I know he can't speak, but I'd like him to stand. Kevin Anerchek, would you please stand, Kevin? Kevin is here quite a bit, seeing that we're keeping everything in line. And he has a, no, you won't be able to speak, Kevin, but it's our procedure. But anyway, I want to recognize you. Kevin tonight brought this Canadian Geographic book, which focuses in on one of our astronauts, Canadian astronaut, Jeremy Hansen, who's on his way home, hopefully safely. And I just want to say that aviation has a lot to do in our area. We have CFB Petawawa. You've got 427 Helicopter Squadron, Tactical Helicopter Squadron. You got 450 Chinook Squadron. And just talking about Kevin's interest in avionics, and he's an avid reader. He reads a lot about Chris Hadfield. He brought all his books with him tonight. And Your Worship, being the kind of guy that you are, you took him into your office and had a picture taken with him to send to Chris Hadfield. I mean, you didn't have to do that, Your Worship, but that's the kind of person you are. I personally know Chris Hadfield. I've had the occasion to speak to him a number of times. He and I have something in common. We were both air cadets. And Jan Zurakowski, who was a test pilot for the Avro Arrow, lived in Barry's Bay. And he came to the local air cadet squadron and talked about flight and encouraging young people to become pilots. And out of that conversation, one of our local guys went on to fly for Air Canada, Paul Lavisa. And Paul was he flew for Air Canada for a number of years. I believe he's retired now. But I certainly hope that, this interest in avionics will continue with our youth. The other thing I just like to mention is that I had the occasion when I was in Bosnia to have a flight on a Griffith helicopter with the door open and a machine gunner on the side door. And there was an issue down below with the United Nations vehicle. So the commander of the ship, or the Griffin helicopter, decided to go down. So we were flying fairly low, and these two UN vehicles were being jostled by hundreds of people, hundreds of Bosnians. I presume they were Bosnians, maybe Albanians, I don't know. But the purpose was to get this crowd to disperse, because these UN personnel were headed to the camp where we were stationed. And they were afraid for their lives, obviously. So I said, Randy Mones, who was a counselor in Petawawa at that time, and the door's open, and I mean, we're maybe, I don't know, 500 feet above the, 500 feet isn't a lot when you're looking down from 500 feet. And Randy said, Ed, what do you think is going to happen? And I said, I hope we don't die. And he said, don't say that. I said, well, don't ask me. But anyways, everything went well, and the crowd dispersed. And ironically, the people that were in that UN vehicle, one of them was from N Division in Toronto. It shows you how people are connected. He was from N Division in Toronto, and while having a game of ping pong with him, he asked me where I was from, and I said, I'm from Pembroke, Ontario. Oh, he said, I know Pembroke. He said, I work with a guy from Pembroke. I said, who? He said, David Broom. He was under, N Division was narcotics. He said, I worked with David, and he was our deputy chief at the time. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Anacek, for that. And I'm going to be forwarding tomorrow, first thing, a picture of you, the mayor, to Mr. Hatfield, asking for an 8x10 with his signature, because you're such a wonderful avionics fan. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
He's Colonel Hatfield, and he's a colonel to this guy. They're both colonels.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Purcell, and then I have Councillor Keel.
Great. I just wanted to shout out to Smitty's Home Hardware for hosting the Carnival Craze fundraiser at the end of March. And also, they raised $12,600 plus, I think, for some children's charities. So that was a fantastic event that was held at Fellows High School. So congratulations to Smitty's Home Hardware and all the group of volunteers for putting on such a wonderful event. It's becoming an annual event that they put on, and all the proceeds go to charity. So fantastic. I wouldn't be dismissed if I didn't call out Josh Wormke. So Josh, when you do go to these events, Josh is always happily dressed up, either as Sparky, or in this case here, he was a Power Ranger. So, he's always free to give advice in regards to, what we should do in terms of our multiplex facility. And so congratulations to Josh, and we just wanted to say thank you for all his support. When he's asked to present someplace, he's there with a smile on. So congratulations, Josh, and thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I just want to thank the staff here at City Hall for lighting up City Hall blue on April 2nd for World Autism Acceptance Day. I can tell you that is a very heartfelt thank you that comes from a number of people in the community who messaged me and thanked me for that recognition. It's not my doing; it was staff's doing, and as the mayor said earlier, or alluded to earlier, it might only be lights, but it certainly has an impact on the community. And a few people, like I said, reached out to me and found it to be very special, and thank you for that. I was happy on March 20th to be at the PMC sponsoring one of the March Break public skates, and I want to thank all of the many sponsors in the month of March that sponsored that. For some people, having those sponsored free skates it really goes a long way, especially for some of the larger families and whatnot. So I'll also thank Director Durocher and his department for putting those together, and I know I spoke with Megan about whether we can expand that maybe a little further with some of our summer activities, and I look forward to seeing what comes of that. On Councillor Purcell's thank you, Smitty's Home Hardware's Building Center's third annual Carnival Craze fundraiser. It had been a long time since I had been in that fellows gym, and I don't know that I had ever been in the gym with so many people. It was the cafeteria and the gym were both packed. I don't know how many people that must be. Certainly it's hundreds. I don't know if it's 1,000 or not, but I don't. I went to fellows for 4 years, and I don't know that I've ever seen that many people packing those two very large rooms, all in support of the Student Support Fund. So I do wish Smitty's Home Hardware well, and hopefully this will continue as an annual event. From there, where I was horribly overdressed, I attended the Legion Awards ceremony. Very happy, as the Deputy Mayor as well, to receive a certificate of appreciation for our support for the local Legion. I also want to I might have a bit of a conflict of interest here, Your Worship, but I want to congratulate my grandfather on his 55-year pin. That's a long time to be a member of an organization, and I know he was very thankful to have received that. The Korean War veteran that he is. So, congratulations to everyone, all of the members, and all of the supporters. And that this was my first Legion Award ceremony. And a lot of the certificates of appreciation were for people that were helping out the Legion in terms of sponsorships and whatnot for their golf tournaments and other events. We filled the room. I was worried we were going to get to standing room only. We seem to be running out of tables and chairs, but it's great to see that many people supporting our local Legion. They do a lot of work for our community. After that, I'm surprised the Deputy Mayor didn't beat me to this. For anybody wondering what the farmers market is up to this year, they just released their calendar this week, so you can check out social media for their various different dates. Next month will be the opening, but there's a car show for the Father's Day weekend scheduled, and some other themed events. So certainly I look forward to the farmers market starting up again. And Your Worship, a Festival Hall update coming up on Sunday, April 12th. A tribute band, Queen. It's a kind of magic. Will be at Festival Hall. The Pembroke Symphony Orchestra. Their season closer is on Saturday, April 18th. Beatlemania is returning. I was at that show last year. It was a really good tribute show. That is on Thursday, April 23rd. Followed the next night, Friday, April 24th, by a Morgan Wallen tribute, and I already have tickets for that. No, Deputy Mayor, there won't be any cowboy hats or anything. Cowboy boots. And then on Saturday, April 25th, Lift Acro Evolutions Recreational Showcase. Followed that evening by Lift Acro Evolution's Competitive Showcase. On April 26th, Enchanted Wonders, a family magic show. So I know at one of our last, well, I guess it was our last meeting, I said there's a lot coming up, and that's just the next few weeks, Your Worship.
Really good. Any other councillor updates? Seeing none, Councillor Giacono, I understand you have a motion to move into a closed session.
I do, Your Worship. Members of Council, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss a proposed or ending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group, or persons, or organization as it relates to development proposals by Canada House Group. Waiting your signature, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that the meeting become a closed meeting to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group, or persons or organizations as it relates to development proposal, Canada House Group. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.